Jay here for Stretford, Paddock, and this is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm not outside Old Trafford. We're doing it live from the studio to bring you all the latest news from United. And the main story we're seeing this morning is about Moises Caicedo. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Pronunciation isn't my strong point. He's this youngster that United have been linked with. Supposedly in January, people like Fabrizio Romano were saying that a deal was more or less done and that United were looking to bring him into the club. He's 19 years old. He plays for Independiente del Valle and he's highly rated. An Ecuadorian, obviously in the same mould as Antonio Valencia. I don't know if he's in the same mould. He's from the same country as Antonio Valencia. Whether he's in the same mould remains to be seen. But an exciting prospect that's been highly regarded. And there's a story doing the rounds this morning that he's keen on a move that I think the Daily Mail and a few others have got it, that he's saying he'd love to complete his move to Manchester United if the move is greenlit for around 4.5 million. Now, this seems like the sort of way United are going at the minute with transfers. We've seen it, of course, with like Palestra and Diallo, where we've gone for these young up-and-coming players, as well as some of the more established stars like Edinson Cavani, Alex Telles, and Donny van der Beek, of course. But United trying to snap up a few youngsters, and it looks like Moises Caicedo is going to be one of those. He's been speaking about it, and he says that he's looking forward to it, and he wants it to happen. There were other clubs, or there are other clubs interested in RB Leipzig and AC Milan are also interested in him, but it looks like United are in pole position to sign him, which I don't know a lot about the kid. He's obviously highly regarded. Like as I've said, other clubs looking at him, and at 4.5 million, he's one of those deals where you can sort of get away with it, can't you? If it works out, fantastic. You've got an absolute bargain. If it doesn't work out, you've only spent £4.5 million, which, all right, in relative terms, it's a lot of money, but realistically, in today's football economy, £4.5 million doesn't get you anything. So worth a punt, worth a risk. And at 19 years old, obviously, there's still a lot for him, a lot more to come from him. So he's keen on a move. Looks like United are going to make that happen. Could happen in January. It may be one of those situations where we see him come in and he has to wait a little while. We've seen it with Palestra, for example, who came in. People thought he was going to be rushed into the first team. Instead, he's been sort of learning his craft for the under-23s and doing a decent job from what I've been told as well. We've had David Pritt on here a few times talking about the academy and the under-23s, and he says for Sunderland, Palestri's been doing a good job from them and could feature this season for United in the first team in some of the cup games. I think we've got the obviously we're still in the Carabao Cup and also the FA Cup as well, so he may well get a chance in there. And this might be a case for this lad as well. He may come in and sort of have to wait for his chance in the first team, but looks like he's keen on the move and United are keen on him. Let us know in the comments what you think of Caicedo. Do you know anything about him? If you've seen him play, have you heard anything, let us know, because I'm not going to pretend that I know a lot about him. I don't. I can only see his stats, and his stats look pretty good, but that doesn't really show you a lot, does it? I've seen a few clips, but I don't like going off YouTube clips, because I remember looking at YouTube clips of people like Gabriel Obertan and he looked like the best player in the world. So I'll be keen to see him, sort of a bit more of him, but let us know what you think. A lot of people in the comments. Martin Last says, I can't wait for Traore Diallo to join next week. Yep, he's another one, a youngster that obviously United are looking at. And, well, not just looking at, he signed him and he's going to come in January. And this, again, like I said earlier, seems to be the sort of the new strategy from United. And we've done this in the past. Let's not forget that even under like Sir Alex Ferguson, we went through a stage of just snapping up youngsters. And if you remember, I was talking on the live show about this the other day, when we had, I think it was in 2003, when the likes of David Beckham and I think Varane left as well. We brought in a load of youngsters, and we brought in, around that time, it might have been that summer and the summer sort of after as well, we brought in the likes of Liam Miller, David Bellion, Kleberson, Djemba, and not many of these players, if any of them, worked out, but there was one player we brought in amongst all them. It was another up-and-coming youngster, a certain Cristiano Ronaldo, and he obviously did okay, did all right, United. So it seems like we might be doing that again, where we're looking at young players, up-and-coming players on the continent, saying, okay, look, can we bring him in? Do they want to come to Manchester United? Can they do a job here? Can we bring him in gradually, rather than just bringing him in, throwing him straight into the first team? Because sometimes being thrown in at the deep end doesn't always work out. So it looks like this lad Caicedo could be one on the horizon, and he's keen on a move. We're keen on him. Looks like it's going to happen, and looks like an exciting player. And I'm looking forward to seeing him, to be honest with you. As I said, don't know a lot about him, but hearing good things. So let's see if we can get that deal done and how it works out. From sort of one youngster potentially going in to one youngster going out. Sam Allardyce, who's flavour of the month at the minute after getting that draw against the Scousers at Anfield last night, with West Brom, the new West Brom manager, is apparently keen on Daniel James. Now, take this with a little bit of a pinch of salt, because not going to lie to you, some of the papers reporting it aren't exactly the newspapers that I always rely on for the most accurate news. But this story about Dan James leaving has been doing the rounds for a little while now, so it's not like it's new news completely. We've heard that clubs are looking at him. We've heard that United may be willing to loan him out. I think that at one point a few weeks ago, I think it might have been myself actually, who had the story on the paper talk, that Everton were interested in him. Everton, who of course sitting in second place in the Premier League, wanted to bring him in. Don't know if that was true, and I don't know if that had happened. But Sam Allardyce at West Brom wants to bring Daniel James. I mean, this is even the headline in this. This is in the Star, right? Which, okay, forgive me, we shouldn't be doing lots of stories from the Star, but I'm going into this one because it's been doing the rounds a little bit. But it says Sam Allardyce, get my words out, keen to land Man United flop Dan James on loan to help West Brom relegation fight. It's not been the greatest, and I know lots of people aren't exactly enamoured of Daniel James. He's not exactly the most favourite player amongst the Manchester United faithful, but I don't know if he is a flop yet. I still think it's a bit too soon. He's not been great. He had a decent start. He scored a couple of goals and everyone was raving about him. Tailed off a little bit and then came back in sort of further towards the end of the season and had some good performances. He had some good games for United. Let's not forget that. Last season, I think at the Etihad, he played very well against City. Even recently against Leeds, he did well. He got his goal and wasn't a fantastic performance, but it was a decent one. But it seems like he may not be sort of favoured by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, according to some sources, which I find a little bit odd because he's had some chances. He played at the weekend, didn't he, against Leicester, so it's not like he's completely forgotten man. We're not talking about someone like Jesse Lingard here who can barely get a kick. You know, this is a player that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer still gives football games to, and important games. You know, the game against Leicester was an important game. The game at home to Leeds was a vital game. You know, we'd lost both of those games. There'd be serious questions being asked. So it's not like he's just completely being ignored. He's getting chances, and that makes me think that maybe he's still got a future at the club this season, an immediate future. So I'm not so sure about this one at all, and I think that it might just be literally paper talk in terms of there's no real substance to it. People in the comments, I'm just going to go through some of your comments here because there's quite a few this sort of shows you where we're at with Dan James. There's like opposing views on it. Sam Potter says, Dan James has a role at the club. I like him in the right games, but wouldn't be gutted to see him get constant game time. So he's, Sam Potter's obviously saying that he thinks he can do a job. Sam Horton has a different view from Sam Potter. He says, I'm not sure if Dan James would get in West Brom's team, which says it all really. West Brom fighting against relegation, and he doesn't think he's got a future at all, or if he can get in their team. Sing Sang Sung says, I don't think Dan James is a flop. Sampan Basnet, forgive me if I'm butchering these names, says Dan James is not a flop, but definitely can't be trusted in the first team. Bought him for cheap, was a gamble, didn't pay off, I think that means, but not much of a loss as well. I don't know. I still think, and I said this a bit earlier, I'd give him to the end of the season. I think he's got a role at the club this season. I think whether that role is just used sparingly, whether that role is perhaps in the Carabao Cup, I know we've only got a couple of games tops left in that competition, or the FA Cup, or is just an impact substitute. Don't forget, he's like one of the quickest people on the planet. So, bringing him on when there's 10 minutes left, when you're trying to get him behind defenders, maybe that could be something for him. I don't know. I just wouldn't be getting rid of him in January. I'd assess it in the summer. And I think that, as has been said, he cost, in relative terms, it wasn't a lot of money. What was it, about 12, 13 million we paid for Dan James, around the £15 million mark maybe, which... it's not the end of the world. If Dan James at the end in the summer does end up moving on, even if he got released, you've not lost a lot of money in football in terms. You've lost around 15 million quid. So it's not the end of the world. And like I said, he has had some decent games, but he's just not been consistent enough. And lots of people sort of going back and forth on here. Eddie Cho says that James is a decent stopgap for now. He will do a job until we eventually sign a real right winger. Aki LP says, loan him out to Leeds and develop the attacking flair with Bielsa and get him back. I don't think we need to get Marcelo Bielsa to develop our players' attacking flair. We should be able to do that ourselves. And we've got a lot of issues at United, but I don't know. I think that yes, you can look at some of the finishing, but I think attacking wise, it's not too shabby. I think defensively is a different story. Someone else says like Moon 812011 says like Dan James, he's always putting in 100%. He's not a first team starter, but as a squad player, he's okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I think as a squad player, he's all right. Any news on Brandon says Adam Ward. I've not seen anything this morning. The latest I saw on Brandon Williams was that he could be going to, I think it was rumoured to be going to Southampton on loan. There's been talk of Brandon Williams going on loan, and also it was rumoured to be going to Southampton on loan. Then Bayer Leverkusen have sort of leapfrogged them, and now it looks like he could be heading there. They want to sign him, so I don't know what there's any updates on that, but we'll keep you posted if we hear anything. Again, I'd expect that to be a low move. I like Brandon Williams. I think he's got a very bright future ahead of him. I think the signing of Alex Telles has pushed him down the pecking order, probably a bit too far now, where he needs football, because he played quite a lot of football last season. I think he played about 20 games, whatever it was. Probably exceeded expectations getting into the first team ahead of when everyone thought he would. Everyone thought it'd be a couple of years before we saw him troubling the first team. Came in, got into the first team, did a very good job, played well. I thought he did well when he came on against RB Leipzig, to be honest with you, this season. I thought he was our best player when he came on. But it looks like he's going to go out on loan. I hope it is a loan move. I wouldn't like to see anything permanent. I expect it will be. And then he can sort of get some game time and hopefully come back next season if he does go out on loan and challenge for the first team. For a spot in the first team, because he can play left back. He can play. He's right-footed though. He does play left back most of the time for the first team when he does play. He can play at right back though as well. He's a very useful player, very good going forward as well. And I'd love to see him have a future at Manchester United. Other stories doing the rounds. Paul Scholes has been talking about Bruno Fernandes. Now, there's lots of debates going about Bruno Fernandes, whether he's the best player in the world or the best midfielder in the world. I think on current form, he's certainly in that conversation. I'd say yeah, but I'm biased. And Manchester United legend Paul Scholes, I think he was talking to the official club website. It's been picked up in a lot of the papers. He says that Bruno Fernandes is better than him. I expect he probably is, because Paul Scholes is about 50 now, isn't he? But I presume he means like he was better than he was when he was playing. That's a debate that could rage and rage. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because Paul Scholes played in a team or teams that had proper world-class players around him. Almost from his debut in, 94, I think he made his debut, 94, 95, up until he retired in 2013. Paul Scholes had the likes of Eric Cantona, David Beckham, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Robin van Persie, Roy Keane, Nicky Butt, Paul Ince. I know he's not flavour of the month, but he was a very good player for Manchester United. He had a lot of good players around him, Andre Kanchelskis, Ryan Giggs. I don't need to go on. You get the idea that I'm getting at. Whereas Bruno Fernandes, when he first came in, it wasn't the strongest Manchester United team. We have improved. We brought, Paul Pogba came back in. Anthony Martial was fit again. So he has got better players around him now, but I don't think he's got the same sort of team around him that Paul Scholes had. So it's always difficult, isn't it? Because how do you compare the two? You can say, okay, Scholes won this and did this and scored this and whatever. I think, obviously, Bruno's numbers are better in terms of goals that he scored. Don't think Scholes was ever that prolific, but again, Scholes didn't take penalties, and he was a different type of player, slightly different type of player. So it's difficult to say, but the fact that we're even having that conversation is a positive, because if Paul Scholes is saying he's better than him, or if people are even talking about that, it shows that Bruno Fernandes is doing extremely well, which we all know he is. He's having a fantastic season, having a fantastic time since he joined Manchester United, and long may it continue, and hopefully he can win some of the trophies, if not all of the trophies, that Paul Scholes won, because a talent like Bruno deserves to be picking up silverware, and that's the one thing that he'll want to put right, because obviously we ended up empty-handed last season, but this season, who knows? Who knows what could happen? I'm not going to start talking about title 21, but it's pretty much nailed on. We're going to win it. Also doing the rounds this morning, Rennie Merlenstein, the former Manchester United coach, he said he's really surprised by Donny van der Beek's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's treatment of Donny van der Beek. He says that he's a bit surprised Van der Beek has only started, I think, is it 2 games he started in the Premier League. I mean, this keeps coming up, and a lot of people are saying this, and whenever the teams are announced, he started just 2 of the club's 14 Premier League matches this season, with 1 goal, which came on the opening day. A lot of people are sort of annoyed when they see that Van der Beek isn't in the team. You know, when the teams are announced and we do the team talk here or whatever, and we see it on socials, and everyone sort of usually says, "Why is Van der Beek not starting? What's going on with Van der Beek? What's he done wrong?" I think we've got to be a bit patient. I don't think this is a similar situation to Bruno Fernandes where we signed him, he was straight in the team, and he starts every game. I think with Donny van der Beek, it was always going to be a little bit more long term. I think you look at who we've got in midfield, the fact that when we play some of the bigger teams or some of the better teams, Ollie does like to have the two holding midfielders, usually Fred and McTominay. That means that you can only usually have one attacking midfielder in front of him, or if he goes for that diamond, he might have two. But even if he does have two, that's still Bruno and Paul Pogba. So there's not much space there. There's not many opportunities for someone like Donny van der Beek to come straight in. Now, things are going to change. It looks like Paul Pogba's going to leave probably in the summer, not January by the looks of it, probably in the summer. So there's one space that come up. I hope we sign another midfielder, even when Paul Pogba does leave, but you never know with this Manchester United board. So that could be an opportunity for him. Also, he will get games. We saw at the back end of last season, how many times did Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, towards the end of last season, play the same team and the players looked knackered and we just completely ran out of steam. We ended up losing the FA Cup semi-final. To be fair, he changed it then, but he changed it and the team wasn't strong enough. We ended up getting knocked out of the Europa League with pretty lackluster performances in that competition towards the end of it. If you remember, you cast your mind back, we barely got through to the semi-final, and then when we did, we just didn't really turn up. So you need a bigger squad, and Donny van der Beek is a player that, if he starts, everyone's happy. He's not a player where you look at it, where you might look at it, to be honest with you, someone like Dan James and go, Dan James, why is he starting him? Or even, well, he's forgotten man now, isn't he? But even last season when Odi Nagalo was starting, a few people raising their eyebrows there. Now, though, Van der Beek starts, I don't think people have a problem with that. It is a squad game. If anything happens to Bruno, God forbid, or Paul Pogba, or if perhaps he can play alongside the sort of Fred or Matic or McTominay. So there's plenty of options there. Anish Joshi in the comments says, Van der Beek is doing well in his current setup. He's a jack of all trades, can play in DM with Fred, box to box instead of Pogba and number 10 instead of Bruno, but he doesn't replace any one of them. That's a good point. I think he is, I know you say jack of all trades, master of none, but I think that he's the type of player that if any of those midfielders needed resting or was injured or suspended or whatever, he could come in. And I don't think he'd be quite as good as them. He's not quite as good as a Bruno in Bruno's role. He's not quite as good as Paul Pogba. And I dare say he's probably not quite as good as someone like Nemanja Matic or even Fred in the roles they play. But he's not a bad alternative at all. He's a very good player. And I think if he comes in, the team doesn't suffer greatly. Whereas in the past, when you've had to bring in the likes of, you go back to last season, I mean, we weren't even bringing him. Maybe he was starting one of Andreas Pereira, or if you brought in Jesse Lingard, who was completely out of form. It just wasn't working, was it? And it hurt us a lot. So I think, we need to be a little bit patient and just see what happens with Donny van der Beek. But I know that it says Ronnie Merlinstein saying he's baffled, but I'm not that baffled. I think it's one of those things where you've got a player there brought in. Let's not forget as well, he wasn't brought in for massive money. 35, 40 million, was it? I mean, yeah, it's a lot of money, but in football terms, this isn't like, if you buy a player for 80 million, then he's going to start in it. You're buying a first team player or even sort of upwards of 60 million. But 35, 40 million, that can still be someone who actually in this day and age isn't guaranteed a first team place. So I'm not panicking. I think we just all need to be a little bit patient. And I hope that Donny van der Beek is being patient as well. We heard stories, didn't we, at the beginning of the season when he first arrived and he wasn't getting many games, that his agent was unhappy. But, tough, basically. He's signed. He's a Manchester United player. He's not going anywhere. He's just got to get his head down and wait for his chance. And I'm sure he'll get it. It seems to be a pretty quick deal, that, did it, when it happened? It was Ollie spoke to, I think, Edwin van der Sar. Deal was done, sorted. And they think it was sorted for a reason, that Ollie wanted him. He wanted to come. There's a reason for that. There was no drama there. It wasn't like Ollie didn't fancy him or he was forced into it. It was a pretty relatively straightforward deal. So I think we just need to wait and see. We've sort of be patient with him, and he'll get his chance. We've got loads of games coming up. Europa League, unfortunately. The league games come thick and fast, and also we're still in the FA Cup and the League Cup as well, the Carabao Cup. So no doubt Donny van der Beek will get his chance. I think we should just don't panic on that one. Guys, get involved in the comments. Let us know what you think of Donny van der Beek. Let us know what you think of the signings, all the signings we've made. Just one final one as well on the signings we've made. Alex Telles has been speaking, I think, to Portuguese press, and he's been talking about how two players have helped him. The two players that have helped him settle in since his move from Porto have been Bruno Fernandes and Fred. He's just been saying now that they've today we are companions, but we were friends before. He's talking about Bruno Fernandes. Bruno is a spectacular person. Asked about Bruno Fernandes' influence in the dressing room, Tellez added, you must already have that idea. I see it up close every day. I don't need to talk about quality because everyone sees the games and we also see him in training. He's a very strong man in our dressing room in the way he deals with each player. He has a leadership position, really. He's always helping with his position and that of his teammates. He helped me a lot in my adaptation here, as did Fred. It is a great honour and pride to have a teammate like Bruno Fernandes. So he does everything, doesn't he, Bruno? Takes penalties, free kicks, scores goals, gets assists, helps you settle in. You know what I mean? Sings the theme tune, writes the theme tune, does a lot. So that's good to see that Alex Tellez is settling in well and Bruno's helping him. Talking about his leadership qualities there, there's always this debate going on in there. Should Bruno Fernandes be the captain? Personally, not my choice, but I think you can still be a leader without having the captain's armband. And from what we've seen on Bruno Fernandes on and off the pitch, he is certainly a leader. And that's what Manchester United at times, perhaps post-Alex Ferguson, have been lacking. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but we have been lacking a bit of leadership on the pitch and just in the dressing room, what have you. So hopefully Bruno, and from what we gather, Bruno's bringing that into the dressing room. And long may that continue. So that's been the paper talk this morning. The main story is quickly recap. Moises Caicedo wants to join Manchester United. Apparently love a move to Manchester United. This is the teenager that's been linked with us, and it looks like that's going to happen in January. So that's good news. We've also had Paul Scholes saying that Bruno Fernandes was better than him. Dan James being linked with a move to West Bromwich Albion. Take that one with a little bit of a pinch of salt because it was in the Daily Star, so no disrespect to that player, but come on. We'll wait and see what happens there. Sam Allardyce, a bit of a fan. And also, we have the René Millenstein saying that he's a bit baffled. Donny van der Beek hasn't had more game time, but again, a little bit of patience, eh? And finally, Alex Tellez saying Bruno Fernandes is amazing, but we all knew that. Anyway, so that's been a paper talk. If you've not done so already, don't forget to check out the members section. We've got the 12 days of Paddock. It's already started, but you can still join in, I think. You can become a member where you get sort of the chance to win lots of prizes, and I think it culminates in a PlayStation 5, the chance to win a PlayStation 5, which apparently, kids tell me is really good. And also we're doing prize giveaways each day, so make sure you check out that. We've got some content on there as well, some exclusive content. Also check out the main channel, of course. If you're not subscribing, hit the subscribe button. We'll have Premier League Piss Take coming up later on today, everyone's new favourite show. We'll also have the Paddock podcast and a preview looking ahead as well to the World Games. I've been Jay Motty. This has been the Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.